I'd like to review here how my relationship to the Japanese has radically changed over the past roughly 12 years of my life. Now, around 12 years ago, our son entered some pottery that he had made in art class at the highly prestigious private school we sent him to. It's the same school I went to until I dropped out at the age of 16. The only reason I've been able to afford sending my son to this highly prestigious school was because at the time our son wanted to go there, or we wanted to send him, the school had financial aid. When I went there was no such financial aid. I would never have been able to afford sending our son to this school without financial aid, so thank you to that school. Now, our son entered some sculptures he'd done at this festival that the school has each year. It's called the Azalea Festival. It's held in the spring around May. It's a big thing at the school. It's a fundraising thing, and it's a wonderful, wonderful day of events and activities at the school. So one of the things was an art show, and our son had entered some pottery he'd made. Well, it just so happens that the person who bought one or two pieces of our son's pottery, well, I recognize the person's name. I don't remember how her name was on there, but the person who bought this pottery of our son's, it was recorded there somehow, for some reason. This was a Japanese woman who I've described in other videos. I've said, she's the only Japanese woman I ever knew when I was growing up in the Washington, D.C. area. The only one, besides the mother of the family that lived on our street. And as I've said, I never saw that mother once, and I played outside on our street every day. I used to see the father. He would be making things with wood in his garage, and the garage door would be open. I never once saw the mother. Never. Anyway, this Japanese woman, I'm refraining from calling her a girl, even though I knew her before she was 18. She was a cheerleader at the high school I graduated from at Bethesda. I was on the varsity basketball team. It was quite a big thing at that school, and she was a cheerleader, and that was a big thing for girls, women, okay? So, as I said before, she was the girlfriend of another guy on the team. And when I saw her, I looked at her like, I don't like you because you're Japanese, okay? Meaning, the Japanese were okay with me, but I don't like her as a possible girlfriend because I don't want to have anything to do with Asian women that way. I don't like Asians that way, and I never thought of an Asian as a possible love match. And I got to say, there weren't any Asians. This was the only Asian woman I ever knew in my school years up into through college, even in graduate school. I never met any others, so I looked at her, not nicely. And so, well, here it's like around 2014, let's say, and I see her name. She's bought one of our son's pottery, like a vase or something that he made. And I'm saying, wow, she bought this of our son's, okay? She had married this guy she was going with in high school. He was on the basketball team. She eventually married him. Now, I thought, wow, this is great. Well, the next thing that happened was our son was quite involved with soccer, and he was on soccer teams outside of school. And one of the teams he was on, around back then, around 2014, 15, around then, there was a half Japanese boy on the team with him. And by some stroke of fate, we got to know each other, and I must say that she's the only person I became friends with in all the years we took our son to those soccer after school activities from the time he was like 7 years old till he graduated from high school. That's almost year round we were taking him to soccer, and I never made any friends among the parents. However, suddenly I was talking to this Japanese mother, and we were friends. Now, here's one thing she told me about herself. She said that her father saw one of those atomic bombs go off over Japan from his house in some mountain location outside whatever city it was. I don't remember. Was it Nagasaki? Was it Hiroshima? I don't remember. But she told me he was there, standing there on the mountainside, watching the bomb go off. Okay? Now, this was significant to me. Why? My own father was on a ship there in the Pacific, and he must have been there for that atomic bomb as well, because he was in the Battle of Okinawa. And what would he have done? Come home after the Battle of Okinawa? No. After the Battle of Okinawa, all the ships stayed there, I'm sure. I've never even read about this, and the bomb was dropped on Japan. Those ships didn't go home. The war wasn't over, they stayed right there. Okay, so I became friends with her, but suddenly she and her family moved out into the west of the United States, and that separated us. So we were no longer able to keep up our friendship. Now, after her, that was it. No more Japanese friends until 2022. Now, I think that my friendship with this Japanese woman probably pretty much came to an end around 2015, because our son played for his high school team instead of one of these out-of-school teams when he was a senior in high school. So that would have meant my friendship with her must have ended around 2015. So fast forward to 2022. Well, let's wait a minute. Hold on. Around 2018, 2017, 2016, around back then, 2017, 2018, I was starting to watch Japanese television. Somehow I stumbled on the channel for Japanese television, and since my wife and I never wanted to pay for any kind of cable service or satellite service or anything of the kind, we used to just watch free broadcast TV, and a lot of that's no good, you know. So I'd be looking around the channels, and I landed on this Japanese television station. I started to watch. I said, this is the best television station I have ever seen in my life. I said, there are no commercials, and the programs are outstanding. So I was watching it. Whenever I turned on the TV, I watched Japanese television. Until we moved from this house to try to live out in Colorado in 2018. And at that point, reception problems. There was no internet where we bought land and everything, and weren't able to watch TV at all. Well, we tried to live in Colorado, it didn't work. We came back to the East Coast, and I started watching Japanese television again. So we came back in 2022, July, I guess, and on November 7th, 2022, I'm watching TV, and I see this woman come on TV, and for some reason, let's just say I became captivated by this woman, and she seemed to be sending messages to me. Now, I'm not going to say more. And, well, I had been watching Japanese television and being educated by Japanese television about the war and everything. I grew up in a household where the Japanese were thoroughly demonized, and they were demonized throughout the United States while I was growing up here. Okay? What do we hear in war movies about the war with Japan? Yankee, you die! Yankee! You know, the troops are facing each other in some kind of swamp, and that's what you're hearing. The Japanese are trying to scare hell out of the American soldiers, and you're making them look like devils, right? So, I watch Japanese television, and I'm getting educated about things like the Battle of Okinawa, and I hear 80,000 Japanese die in 1 month in the Battle of Okinawa compared to the American loss. I said, nobody told me this. Then I see the atomic bombs dropped on Japan are dropped on women and children and old people pretty much. The army's decimated. Where are the soldiers? The army's gone. After the Battle of Okinawa, right? Where's the army? What was left of the army had to have been there, and it was decimated. So you're going to drop atomic bombs on women and children in Japan. Well, this is a war crime, right? So I'm watching Japanese television, and I'm liking Japanese for a lot of reasons. Okay? It seems that this man who was in that war, he turns out not to have been my father. He was extremely abusive to me while I was growing up. And he was sexually abusing me. And on top of that, he tried to murder me. How? I'm saying the only explanation is a shot of radiation poisoning. Okay? So I'm saying to myself, if I'm going to get any confirmation that I was radiation poisoned, there's one people on the earth that can help me with that, and that's the Japanese. But I just can't get over there and talk to them about this. I've been legally considered to be crazy by this outrageously evil father here. It was not my father. It was abusing me, falsely accusing me, tried to murder me, and the rest of it. It is believed by everybody because he was a boss. He was a medical doctor, and he was believed, and I was not. So, this woman comes on TV, and she's beautiful. She's brilliant. She's accomplished. She's way high up in the world, and she seems to like me. Well, there's my review of me and the Japanese. So, what have I been saying about the Japanese now after being educated mostly by watching Japanese television from 2018 until now? That's, well, 2022 till now. 4 years of watching almost exclusively Japanese television. I don't watch any other television. I'm not interested in American views on this and that, American news and the rest of it. So, you know, I've learned to highly respect the Japanese, and I'm saying to myself, the Japanese, from what I can see, they look like the most highly evolved people on the earth. Now, you can figure out what I mean by that, but I do say that that's true about them, right? The Jews are supposed to be God's chosen people, right? But that doesn't make them the most highly evolved people on the earth. It doesn't. It makes them an instrument of God's work on the earth, right? But it doesn't mean that they're the smartest or the most highly evolved and so on. So, I'm saying, from what I've seen in my study of the Japanese, mostly through Japanese television, and that's how I've been being educated, what I just said about them must be true. So, here's my review of my relationship with the Japanese, which has gone from somebody raised in a household where the Japanese were thoroughly demonized and I wanted nothing to do with them, especially in terms of marriage, to where I'm head over heels in love with a Japanese woman I haven't even met, and I've been faithful to the idea that she wants to meet me, but for some reason she's being kept from it. And I'm not sure what the reason is, but I'm not letting go. She's worth it. I'm not letting go. Well, there's my review of me and the Japanese.